VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We have real, meaningful regular season football in the books, and these Vikings are 1-0. They were a 1.5-point favorite. They won by 22. The first time the Vikings have defeated an opponent by 17 or more points in 5 years. I'm here with Brevi Bright Lights. How goes it, man?
Pretty good after today. I really can't do much complaining at all, other than I'm annoyed that overtime wins are still just the first. If you get the ball first, score a touchdown, it's over. But that's besides the point.
We are recording this for folks watching it Monday, moments after the Lions prevailed in Detroit. Overtime win because of the rules. But let's talk about these Vikings, Brevin. This is a really exciting show because I don't know anybody that would have watched this game as a Vikings fan and been dismayed whatsoever. So first, I want from you just a open blank canvas reaction, whatever you want to get off your chest about this Vikings win before I start picking your brain on specific items.
To be quite transparent, my first reaction after our first offensive drive of the game was, "Oh no," because I think it was 1 yard run, sack, dump off, fumble to C.J. Ham, and the interior line, Garrett Bradbury, for the most part. I saw that Ingram too. Just getting Dexter Lawrence was just in there immediately each time, and I was like, "All right, well, there goes that." But luckily, they adjusted, they adapted, they overcame, and every facet of this team looked. I know they're playing the Giants, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but you're supposed to blow bad teams out, even though we're not the contender that we've been considered to be, I guess, for lack of a better term, during the Kirk Cousins era. But the team from top to bottom looked complete. Passing game, run game, defense was completely lights out. Again, I know they're playing Daniel Jones, but what do you want them to do? They
Mm-hmm.
did everything that you want them to do against a bad team, especially if you're expecting the Vikings to do something this year. So I really can't find a thing to complain about, other than I think, again, the interior O line had some very less than stellar moments, but they do have the bodies now to where they can shift things around, so that could hopefully be fixed. But like I said, pass game, run game, everything. It's awesome to have an NFL caliber starting running back now. Really, really cool. I tweeted out, because Aaron Jones scored that touchdown on the second drive of the game. Alex Madison, all of 2023, 0 rushing touchdowns. Aaron Jones, 2 drives into 2024. He's got a rushing touchdown. So I don't know. I guess, again, another nitpick would be, I wish Justin Jefferson got more yards, but 22-point victory, that's nitpicking. So
Yeah, they didn't really need to use him much like the last 2 seasons in the second half because the game wasn't competitive.
yep.
I didn't have any anxiety in the second half like I usually do.
No.
It's also worth noting in terms of the interior offensive line getting dominated for a little bit of the game. This is about as talented as a defensive line. Maybe not like how it's used, but the dudes that are on that defensive line, you're not going to find too many three-headed monsters like that in the NFL. So kudos to the Vikings for adjusting and giving Sam Darnold time to throw. All right, when we started to put the game on ice, Brevin, and it felt like we're actually going to win this son of a bitch, I started to ask myself, are we just beating a shitty team that is going to be a top 5 draft pick? And I haven't been able to shake that anxiety. That's kept me level-headed so that I'm not like all rah-rah heading into San Francisco week. Have you had that same paranoia that these Giants, after Hard Knocks and all this, they're just not a good team?
Yeah, and to go into your point, like when they put the game on ice, I forgot what we did, but we were up 21-6 the drive before that Van Ginkel pick six. I was just like, oh
Yeah, it felt
no.
like one of those bad Kirk drives where
Yeah,
you come out in the third quarter and you're like, really? That's what we did?
yeah. And the other team, this is where we fold, and the other team comes back. But then immediately, Andrew Van Ginkel had definitely been watching film, and he knew that screen was coming. So thankfully for that. But yeah, I mean, that's a completely valid anxiety to have, because the Giants are a really bad team. On top of that, too, like week one is
Mm-hmm.
wacky. And we don't know yet, going based off of when they're fully healthy. Like the Bengals, we think they should be a contender to the AFC. A lot of people have them potentially going to the Super Bowl. They just got the score. Yeah, the score doesn't do how they lost today justice. They got
Mm-hmm.
dominated by the Patriots today.
At
I
home,
think
right?
right, yeah, in
Yeah.
Cincinnati. I think it was 16-10, but like again, the score doesn't tell the story. I could think you could even argue the 28-6 score from Minnesota over New York didn't tell the entire story. But the Giants being a bad team on top of week one in the NFL being really, really wacky, it's hard to not have that anxious feeling. And you might get painted as the pessimistic Vikings fan for that, or you just know how this goes. So, yeah, no, completely valid thing. And fortunately, over these next 2 weeks, we're going to find out because we got San Fran and Houston coming up. Fortunately, both at home, but we're going to find out how good this team is pretty quick.
Yeah, we might be. It might feel like we're doing a different activity altogether playing the 49ers next week. But to balance out that pessimism of is it just the Giants that we throttled? Another thing I've been thinking about, and you'll like this one. We've talked at length on this show on Saturday nights, especially looking at the schedule, how brutal it is. And once we get to the Colts game is when everything lightens up. What if the Vikings don't have this awful record by the time they get to the Colts game? And then you look at the schedule and we're 4-3 or we're 4-4 or 5-4, whatever the game count is. And then the schedule really gets mushy. And especially if Aaron Love is out for an extended period, the division could be really strange. Is there any credence to that level of positivity to balance out the negativity of it's just the Giants?
I think so. And again, not that I think this team would ever try to lose on purpose, um, but I would kind of hate it because again, we could be of that a little over 500 record by the time the easier part of the schedule comes, and still being realistic about it, like this team's not going to win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So like draft time, I'd hate it because like, oh, are we really going to have the 22nd overall pick? For winning games and being a fan of the team, it'd be really cool to have that bit of hope. Because again, it is the NFL, it is wacky. So if this team can potentially string together some wins, the schedule does lighten up a lot toward the end. So if you can get through this stretch, like even if they get through these first three games, 2-1, if they can
Mm-hmm.
knock off one of San Fran or Houston, I am really happy about that because I think I predicted them to go 1-4 in their first five
I think
games.
everybody did except for the rah-rahs.
Yeah, and this was the one win. So I thought the win would be by one score. So that kind of changes things with it being a three possession win. But yeah, I can definitely see the Vikings being in this spot, and we're like, oh,
So,
what do we
so
do with this?
So we're good. That's what we'll be saying.
Yeah,
We're at least decent. I will go on record right now and say I don't think after watching this game, I don't think the Vikings are going to lose two home games back to back because I
yeah,
think the defense is good enough to hold serve. I'll get into Darnold here in about 5 or 10 minutes, and especially after watching Sunday Night Football, after watching the Packers lose, I'm not overly afraid. Like terribly, like oh my god, like I was like mainly because of the Vikings' performance today. They're not some chumps that needed every bit of grit to beat the Giants. No, they looked pretty damn good. One thing that really stood off the page to me, Brev, is you would think in a week one game that's designed to be sloppy because nobody really plays in the preseason, there should have been a hint of, God, we missed Danielle Hunter out there. And I didn't feel that for one single second. Why was that, good sir?
I really don't know. I didn't feel a hint of anything missing. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing missing in this game was Will Reichard getting a field goal attempt, but that's because we were scoring touchdowns, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I can't be too mad at that. There's really, and that's what I was getting at with the top to bottom. Like this was, I don't want to say it's like the most complete game the Vikings have played in the Kevin O'Connell era because it's so hard to weight that with who you're playing against. Like I'd venture to say Kevin O'Connell's very first game,
Yeah.
that home opener against Green Bay, that was immensely, insanely complete.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like again, my main thing going into today was seeing how the run game would be. And again, the Giants' run defense. I think people really overrate the Giants' defense, and I really don't know exactly where it comes from. I think it comes from like when they had. I don't even know if Wing Martindale is still there, but
No.
like he just looked like a tough defensive coordinator 2 years ago, and he's like, oh, their defense is good. Um, but like their run defense last year was atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Dexter Lawrence is there, and I pointed that out on Twitter for no likes, which was cool. And like I just posted all these stats about like, hey, the Giants' run defense is really, really bad, and
Mm-hmm.
heavily implying that this should be an Aaron Jones game, and it was. He averaged almost, I think, 7 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was the main thing I was looking for today. And with that being there, the defense playing sound, Sam Darnold looked right on cue. I hate that interception so much just for the stat sheet because it wasn't on him. But
Yeah.
again, the only thing that felt lacking today is something that we've grown accustomed to, especially in the last 10, 15 years, which was the interior offensive line's pass protection. But that I can forget. I'm used to that. That's whatever.
Yeah, that's a Dexter Lawrence thing. He'll probably
Yeah.
do that even if we ever get to the point where we are a top 5 offensive line. That son of a bitch is still going to do that if it happens that soon. I'm glad you brought up Aaron Jones because one cool thing I thought of, I want to lift up to viewers, is he was so productive, so trustworthy compared to last year's run game that when like Jordan Addison went out, I was like, oh well. Like, and
Yeah.
last year I'd be like, oh God, now who are we gonna throw it to? How, because the running game would never take any of that stress off, no matter what.
Mhm.
Maybe the Cincinnati game where Ty Chandler had 130 yards rushing, whatever. But a testament to Aaron Jones was he made it so the old style of Vikings football with prime Dalvin Cook and certainly Adrian Peterson is like it took the onus off the passing game. Looking down in a stat sheet that says Justin Jefferson at 59 passing yards and we win convincingly, that's not how things have gone around here. So even thinking about the prognosis of Jordan Addison for next week, certainly we want him to play. But if Aaron Jones can cook and get 5-6 yards per carry, doesn't it make it feel like, well, we can still possibly win that thing?
Definitely. And I know the 49ers are a different tier of team than the Giants, and especially a different tier of defense. But I don't know. Like when you the blowing the doors off the Giants thing is what just makes me think and makes it hard to be like, oh, it's just the Giants, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like if they're blowing out an NFL team on the road, um, with Justin Jefferson having sub 60 yards, with Johnny Munt having like 15 yards. I think Josh Oliver had 20 something. Jordan Addison, I don't even know how many he had. Hawkinson, obviously not there. If you're winning games convincingly and your run game was, I don't want to say it was the best part of your day, but it was, I guess maybe it was the most efficient. I don't even know if that's fair to say. Main point is nobody's going off in the receiving game, and you just
Mm-hmm.
blew a team out by 3 possessions. That is cause for hope. And I would like to tell myself that that is totally sustainable going forward against certain teams. It probably won't be. Next week is one of those, but I don't know. This game instilled a lot of confidence in me, not just for the team, but in Kevin O'Connell with, because we always had, it's easy to point to the two and a tush pushes in a row with Brandon Powell behind Nick Mullins and the 3rd and 1 at midfield in the first quarter pass to Kirk Cousins. Like it seems like Kevin O'Connell has these boneheaded plays every once in a while, but like today, top to bottom, like O'Connell played a perfect game, called a perfect game. He had Darnold ready, run game was cooking. Like if it really scheme over team, and this team can be a prime example of that.
So that was a wonderful point that good teams, or in the Vikings case, maybe a mediocre good team, I'm not sure how that'll play out. They did their job. They beat a
Yep.
bad team on paper outside the defensive line talent. They beat them convincingly. And so that should give solace to anybody that's like me at 4 p.m. thinking, God, was it just the Giants? The other thing, this is a real selfish thing for me, and nobody should take a lot of credence in it, was with Kirk Cousins gone, when we have gaffes like back-to-back delayed games that were saved by timeouts, I'm very glad that we don't have to explode and go, oh, God, Kirk's a moron. I can't believe he did that. It was nice to have a clean slate with a guy like Darnold where we know there's going to be some mistakes and we don't have this huge standard to hold him to. So I want to get that off my chest. It was cool to have that relief. I think it was a lack of division that we have on the fan base now that Kirk's gone. We're all kind of united behind McCarthy foremost and then this bridge quarterback. Is there any irony or coincidence that the Vikings get their first blowout the moment he leaves the Cousins.
It's a damn beautiful thing. I don't. I was thinking it the entire time. Getting the blowout while Kirk Cousins is struggling. I had the Vikings and Giants game like on my laptop, and then I had Red Zone on a TV. And I would, of course, I'm locked in on the Vikings and Giants first and foremost. But every time I look up at Red Zone and the Steelers and Falcons game came on, it was just T.J. Watt just bullying Kirk Cousins or whatever offensive lineman. It's just, I feel like Kirk was getting hit immediately. T.J. Watt, I've said, I think, well, I can't. I've said amongst friends, I think he's the best defensive player in the NFL, and he has been for years, even with Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa. Aaron Donald, of course, probably takes that cake, but I don't know. Poor Kirk. Oh well. But yeah, it is really cool to see him struggle while we blow somebody out first game. And I'm gonna victory lap that, and I'm sure that Kirk Cousins will be fine. But it's just really funny. And
Yeah.
we had a good off season, but the last couple weeks of the off season, a couple months really, the off season, we're like, oh. So I think we deserved a good laugh at Kirk Cousins. I forgot how fun it is to laugh at Kirk Cousins too. I haven't been able to do that in a while.
We were telling, or I've told people, I think on the show with you, but certainly on the show in general, that Cousins' worst season with the Vikings was his first one. And
Yeah.
we learned from the Netflix special a summer ago that he's a meticulous planner. And I think it takes a while for him to acclimate into something new. And that's why his 2018 season with the Vikings wasn't bad, but it was his worst by far, in my opinion. And that's why they collapsed down the stretch, the whole team, plus Cousins in that game against, was it the Bears and the Packers? Awful in 2018. But yeah, Kirk will figure it out to an extent with Atlanta. We'll see. We'll see how it works out for him. But enough with Kirk. I want to ask you about Sam Darnold. So Yannick Eckhart, who's on this show about once a month, he and I developed a theory in the last two seasons that every good backup quarterback has two good games, and then they turn into a pumpkin. So Dobbs last year, kind of Jake Browning. It took him about 3 games. With Darnold, do we slap that litmus test on him, or can he be considered like, oh, this guy is untapped talent, this geographical cure worked? Basically, in a nutshell, where are you on Darnold? Do you need to see a lot more to get hyped, or are you like, no, this can work?
I think I'm just with okay, this is fine for a year. I do think there's validity to the whole theory that backups have 2 good games and then blah. But and there's sure there's outliers, but just the 2 names you named, I think were like Dobbs and I think Jake Browning. Did you name Jake Browning? Am I crazy? Okay.
And there are other ones as well.
Yeah, those guys are like they are truly career backups. Sam Darnold is a top 3, top 4, top 5 pick, 4th, 3 thought so.
Third to the Jets.
Good Baker, Saquon, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but he's a top 3 pick. He's been a starter on multiple teams to this point, so I think it's a little bit different in that. And he has that. Not that your draft position matters after you've been in the NFL for 6, 7 years, but I think it's a little bit different than him falling into that theory. I think Sam Darnold, I think everybody knows or should know that he has all the arm talent in the world. And I have the theory that if you get drafted to the New York Jets, especially nowadays, you're doomed to fail. Like, I still firmly believe if Zach Wilson, I think I've said on the show before, if Zach Wilson didn't go to the Jets, he would be a good quarterback. I love Zach. Zach Wilson's arm talent was incredible. And same with Sam Darnold. Poor guy got drafted to the Jets. So I'm not saying I think now Darnold could be the quarterback he was supposed to be at this point, but I think he falls somewhere outside of that theory that backups just have these couple good games. I think he's a guy that will be like one of the best spot starters in the NFL for even another 5 years, maybe, because I think he's 27. So, kind of like I don't want to say Colt McCoy because I think he's better than Colt McCoy, but kind of like a upgraded Colt McCoy with cup holders or something.
I think, or the thing that gives me the most excitement about Darnold for these next 16 games is with Josh Dobbs, it was extremely evident that he did not have the arm talent. We had to rely on playground theatrics, which were awesome for a couple weeks. With Sam Darnold, he doesn't have those playground theatrics. He's sneaky mobile, but he has the arm talent. He may not have Joe Milton's arm, but it's a first-round arm, and then he has the accuracy, and he's got the grit. Usually, that's why he was drafted so high, was the IQ and the USC playmaking. So that's what gives me hope. If you're a Viking fan who wants to see this season evolve into something grand, I don't know if it can be a division win, probably, or a division crown, probably not. But after you watch today, who's to say they can't go 10-7, 9-8, and get in the dance? So that's what gives me excitement. Is we don't have to say, well, if he just threw it, like if he improved this thing in his toolkit, he can be a QB1. No, he's got all of the talent. There's no arguing that. It's just the damn interceptions and fumbles that have limited, and the bad situations. All right, two things left for you, sir. Andrew Van Ginkel. He came over, steal of a deal in free agency back when we thought he was the solution, because we didn't have any idea that Dallas Turner was on the way. So on the defense on the whole, and Andrew Van Ginkel, give me your reactions to Brian Flores' group.
Again, prefacing, I know we played the Giants. I know Daniel Jones is the opposing quarterback. But what more did you want to see out of the defense today? Making Daniel Jones's life a living hell, Brian Dable's life a living hell. I don't remember, and I think I just glanced at the box score a couple hours after the game. So going off memory, I don't remember the Giants having any runs of note. So I could be completely wrong, but I just don't remember. What could you what do you want? They played. There's no such thing as a perfect game in the NFL, I guess, but when you don't allow a touchdown on the road, and half of the points that you did allow were off of CJ Ham fumbling on the first drive of the game, am I supposed to be like mad? They played darn near flawlessly, as close as they could to it. I was really impressed with Byron Murphy. I didn't hear Shaq Griffin's name a ton. Didn't hear Stephon Gilmore's name a ton, which you want out of your cornerbacks. But I know Malik Neighbors had the one pretty sick catch, which was a really good throw by Daniel Jones on Stephon Gilmore.
That's going to happen. Playmakers make plays.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors, it doesn't matter if Daniel Jones is his quarterback. He's going to get his somehow, some way. And sometimes as a corner, you kind of have to bend over and spread your cheeks. But I don't know. I'm happy the pick six happened. Dallas Turner got his first career sack. I think he was matched up against Andrew Thomas on that rep. So I'm excited. I don't remember seeing much of Blake Cashman though, which again could be a good thing.
Yeah. No, he just he was not a tackle machine, but he got his tackles. Yeah. I think he had 7 or whatever. One of the coolest unsung things about this win to me is the pressure was so consistent that we didn't have to debate whether or not the cornerbacks were good. We got the blueprint that we wanted, that if you are flustering the quarterback for most of the game, then you don't need absolute shutdown corners, which we don't have. So it worked today emphatically. Yep. The cornerbacks played well, but they weren't matched up all right, this guy's going to sit back and cook, so we need Caleb Evans to make a play or something like that.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Lewis Cine as effective as he was the rest of his career. He was as effective today as he was for the Vikings for the last 2 years. So that was awesome from him. And shout out to Ivan Pace for saying it's not even going to be a matchup today, to which I put my face in my hand when I read that. I think it was yesterday. I was like, great. But he was very right. Yeah. So I'm sure he's feeling all right now.
Yeah, that was unprovoked commentary. I think it was Darren Wolfson just said that. And then today he almost got ejected for bitch slapping that guy. So yeah, he was riding a fine line, but he got away with both. All right, the last thing, and I'll give you time for closing arguments if we forgot anything, is would the Vikings have won this game with J.J. McCarthy winning the summer battle?
Yeah, I mean, if I know things may go a little differently, and it's not a apples to apples comparison, but say just really blind argument that we allow 6 points, I still think we would have scored more than 6 points. And I understand like McCarthy, the offensive drives will affect the amount of points that the other team score. But I don't know. It's hard to say that they wouldn't have with just how bad the Giants look today. I don't know if it would have been a blowout, but I think McCarthy is more NFL ready than maybe we previously thought, and he's been proving that through training camp and showed it a little bit in the preseason. Kind of take that performance for what you want to, I guess, but I think so. I would have bet money on it. I don't know if it would have been a 22-point victory, but I'd say yeah.
Yeah, Bears fans, I think, got lassoed in the QB wins crowd today because they got a win because of a bunch of intangible shit. And then the media said, hey, Caleb Williams got a W. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't really work that way. All right. Is there anything that we get off the show and tomorrow morning you wake up and you're like, that casual Dustin Baker didn't even mention this? Is there anything we're not talking about from this game?
Really, nothing I can think of. It was such a complete performance. It's hard to miss something. I'm scratching my head mentally. I really can't think of anything.
Yeah, we had the exclamation point by Harrison Smith, which was
Oh,
fantastic.
I'm the
Yep.
casual. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then Josh Metellus had a sweet play. I think if you were going to do those stock up and stock downs, the only naughtiness was Ryan Wright's one shitty fumble that really didn't matter because the game was well in check. CJ Ham had a mind-boggling fumble and only touched the ball once after that. Ty Chandler looked good. He had a couple decent runs once they gave him the ball. And it's worth noting that Aaron Jones only had 14 rushing attempts. So I think that they're going to split this backfield like, every third drive, Ty Chandler comes in. All right, well, let's get off air with this. How are you feeling about that Niners game with Addison questionable or whatever? Are you, sneaky win this thing, or we come back to earth and then maybe predict a win over the Texans or something like that?
So it makes absolutely no sense. But if the 49ers win tomorrow, I'll feel a lot better that we
Yeah,
can win
I feel the
next
same
week.
way. I want them
Because
happy.
I don't see them losing 2 in a row. And if they lose tomorrow, I see them coming out with hellfire the week after. So I mean, I still wouldn't feel confident saying that Minnesota would win the game, but I feel a lot better about their chances after what they did to the poor New York Giants on national television today.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll reiterate from the top of the show that after watching a slate of games, especially the primetime games or Thursday, Friday, and then tonight, I'm not crazy scared of anybody not named the Chiefs. I'm like, if our defense plays like that, they can hang with anybody. So we'll have to expand that opinion once we see how the 49er game shakes out. All right, sir, we'll probably break down that Niners game, same bat time, same bat channel next week. We'll talk to you then, sir, okay?
Absolutely. I got to go to work tomorrow and see my department manager that's a Giants fan and
Oh,
drove up
really?
for the game today. That must suck.
Victory Monday, baby.
Yep.
All right, take it easy.
Later.
Later.